today's Planning and Zoning Commission meeting for October 1st. We're glad to have all our friends, neighbors, and interested members of the community here. Our first order of business, Caleb, is to call a roll.
They got me working everywhere today.
That's good.
Carlene Darkbays.
Present.
Clint Childs.
Here.
Philip Humber.
Here.
Christina Davis.
Present.
Michael Carmichael.
Here.
Roy Martinez.
Here.
David Hudson.
Present. Members of the commission and interested members of the public, we have a new commissioner with us, Roy Martinez. The city council has seen fit to appoint him to the commission in replace of John Landis, who left only because he was timed out. So we're glad to have Roy here. He's an old friend and will be an asset to the commission. The Planning and Zoning Commission makes recommendations to the City Council. Any item approved today will be heard by the City Council at its regular meeting on Wednesday, October 23rd, 2024, commencing at 9 a.m. If you received a notice for this meeting, you also should have received you've also received a notice for the City Council meeting. If any item is denied, the applicant has 10 calendar days to state your name and to file a written appeal with the Planning Department. The appeal will then be acted upon by the City Council. If you're here to speak for or against an item, please state your name and address for the record. Comments should be limited to 5 minutes or less, although extensions of time may be granted by the chair on request. Normally at the conclusion of our regular meeting, we have a workshop to plan for next month's meeting. That workshop this month will be on October 15th at 1:30, and like all of our meetings, it's open to the public, and it will be held in the Tyler Development Center across the street at 423 West Ferguson in the large conference room. Our next order of business is minutes from the last meeting, September 3rd. Commissioners had an opportunity to review these minutes. Any corrections, changes? If not, is there a motion?
So moved to approve the minutes from prior meeting.
Thank you, Carlene.
Second.
Thank you, Philip. Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Minutes are approved. Our first zoning item is PD 24-021, Reed Property Management. Kyle?
Good afternoon, Commissioners. This first item is a request for a PUR planned unit residential district site plan amendment. This is for the proposed development here at the end of Crooked Trail and Dalton Lane, also at the end of Lakeway Drive, just these two tracks here. These properties were rezoned to PUR with a site plan the past couple of years, and the purpose of this request is to amend the phasing of the development, how it will be developed over time. When it was approved by City Council, it was proposed and approved as a single phase development, so all at one time. And so the applicant has requested to change the phasing from one phase to 4 phases, and so that was reviewed by staff and discussed with the applicant. As you see here, the surrounding properties are generally residential and are developed as such or planned to be developed that way. And then there's also agricultural zoning to the south, which is developed with single-family homes on large lots. This request is still the same site plan that was adopted, as you see here. But you can see on this site plan here, it does show the phasing plan for this development, which is 4 phases. And the site plan does stipulate that the phases will be developed in sequential order, so 1, 2, 3, and 4. And so all the approved conditions that were on the previous approvals, they're still there. but it does show the phasing, and it stipulates that when they will be phased. The connections, the required street connections that were required for this development are also shown on here, and they are shown in logical phasing. So the first phase on the south side does include that stub out to the south, and then also the first phase on the north side also does that. And so that does ensure that those elements are part of development as each of those areas develop. The staff, we reviewed the request. We did send out notices to the neighbors per state law, and we received 4 notices in favor of the requested site plan amendment and none in opposition. And staff recommends approval of this request.
All right, thank you, Kyle. Any questions for city staff? If not, I don't show that anybody signed up to speak, but are there persons here who would like to speak on this change or against? Yes, sir. Just state your name and address for the record.
My name's Bruce Cannon, 8208 Crooked Trail, and I'm going to read a letter from our president of the HOA regarding this. He said he wasn't able to attend because he was going to be out of town. It says, breaking this project down to 4 phases is beneficial for all parties involved. Currently, the land clearing and grading has begun on what would be phase 1 and 2. We have been working with SIDAR with a few issues that have come up with their contractor that has been doing the clearing and grading work. This area is being worked on is the southern portion that is south of Crooked Trail. We would love to have that be the only portion of the development that has trees clear and dirt work being moved around behind our residents' properties at this time. Approving the zoning request would let the northern portion of the project not be cleared until many months to a year and a half from now, leaving the properties behind residents on the north side of Crooked Trail undisturbed. We also, as a HOA, would request that the city not place the 2 road stubs to the north of Dalton and to the south off of Green Hill Drive. We do not want a potential shortcut to be created taking traffic on Crooked Trail and up to Dalton to connect to the Walgem area. Traffic needs to be diverted west from Crooked Trail and Green Hill Drive to connect to the future collector. Our street is a much wider street than most residential streets, which would encourage traffic to drive faster than the speed limit. Our original portion of Crooked Trail does not have sidewalks, and we have many residents that enjoy walking and many children that ride bikes in the mornings and evenings. So the HOA is in favor of the the changes.
Say it again. The
HOA is in favor
of
the changes, the phases, 4 phases.
Any questions? Thank you for your time and presence. Are there others who would like to speak on this item? Mr. Reed?
Only if there are any questions.
I'm sorry, sir?
Only if there are any questions.
Only if there are any questions?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Reed? All right. No other speakers on this item for or against. If not, commissioners, staff recommendation is to approve. Is there a motion?
I'll move to approve item PD 24-021.
I'll second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve this item. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Items approved. Sheila, the next item is Z24. Z20. Make sure, no, that's something wrong. The next item is, let me get where it is.
So,
PD 24-023, Harper Reed.
Yeah, PD 24023 Cooper Ridge. Sheila?
This is a site plan amendment, a PMXD1 site plan amendment. The applicant is requesting the zone change to change the layout of the site plan. The adjacent properties to the east are zoned C1 light commercial district and are developed with commercial uses. Those are properties to the east, west, and north. The adjacent property to the south is on PMXD1 mixed use district and is developed with mixed uses. The future land use guide identifies this property as a mixed use center. The request would be consistent with the future land use guide. In 2022, the site plan was approved for a 4-story, 45 residential units with a density of 30 units per acre with required parking for the use and 90 parking spaces. The amended plan proposes a 3-story gated accessible community of 21 garage entry residential lofts with a density of 13.46 units per acre. The site plan provides 53 total parking spaces, two spaces per garage, with the remaining 11 standard parking spaces will be met through shared parking agreement. Here's the site plan. Of the 15 notices mailed, 2 notices were returned in favor and 1 in opposition to the request, with a total protest calculation of 21%. The protest generally had concerns with the layout of the request. As the written protest exceeds 20%, a favorable vote by a 3/4 majority of City Council will be required to approve this request. All other departments have reviewed the application and anticipate no significant impact on services and facilities by the proposed rezoning request. Staff has performed a technical review of the request and finds that it is generally consistent with the approval criteria, and staff recommends approval of the site plan amendment.
Are there any questions for Sheila? If not, are the persons here who'd like to speak on this item? Mr. Priestner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mark Priestner, 1121 East Southeast, Loop 323. As staff pointed out, so the original site plan on this is the same uses that were proposed under the original PMX. We couldn't come to agreement with the lot owner that's just to the south. That's part of the HOA actually owns that right of way. They're all private streets owned by a separate HOA. Originally, we had intended to close off that section altogether by gating it to have parking, and so we had more units. We could not come to agreement on it, so we went back to the original easement where it's located, so that stays open and the gates are off of that roadway. So this keeps in the original site plan that was done on that entire area, that keeps that section open. It's open access to both sides of the street. It's got that additional parking on it, and the parking for the units will actually be inside gates inside of that. So we've reduced the units down from 45 to 21 just because of the way that it worked by having to keep that easement in place. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Reduce the units from 45 to 21, is that
Correct.
my understanding? Commissioners, any questions for Mr. Priestner? If not, thanks for your time and presence. Are there others who would like to speak on this item for or against? If not, any other questions for city staff?
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve PD 24-023.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve this item. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item's approved. Next is Z24-029 KTSI Properties. Sheila?
This is a zone change from R1B to M1. The applicant is requesting the zone change to develop the property. There we go. To develop the property with light industrial uses. The adjacent properties to the north are zoned M1, Light Industrial District, and C1, Single Family Residential District, and are the location of an electrical substation and undeveloped land. The adjacent property to the west is Zone R1B, Single Family Residential District, and is undeveloped. The adjacent property to the east is Zone R1B as well, Single Family Residential, and M1 Light Industrial District, and is developed with a paint and collision repair business. The future land use guide. The future land use guide identifies this property as light industrial warehouse, and this request is consistent with that. The applicant intends to see the property as a future site for industrial business uses. As the property to the west is zoned for residential, any development will require a type C buffer yard to be installed. Of the 10 notices mailed, none were returned in favor or in opposition to the request. Staff has performed a technical review of the request and finds that this request is generally consistent with the approval criteria, and staff recommends approval of this request.
Thank you. Sheila, any questions for Sheila? Any questions for city staff? I don't show anybody signed up to speak. Are there persons here who'd like to speak on this item for our guests? Yes, sir. If you'd come to the microphone and state your name and address for the record, please.
Good afternoon. My name is James Kruger. I live at 2229 East Commerce Street. I own 2 lots immediately adjacent to the lots in question, lots 6 and 7, that KTSI is wanting to have zone changed. I've lived at this location for 38 and a half years. I've owned it for approximately 36 years. And one of the nice things about this area was it was, residential. And you had properties that had a house and a little bit of acreage with it. So you didn't have immediate neighbors, so you were kind of spread out. And that's one of the nice things that I liked about it. But with these changes, if this goes to industrial zoning, then what's going to happen to the valuation of my property? Here I've held on to it for, like I say, at least 36 years. And then when it comes time for me to sell, my property is going to become harder to sell and to get the value of it that it probably deserves. To give you an instance that would be kind of blown out of proportion, but I'm trying to make a point. Let's just say, for instance, this KTSI, whoever owns it, I don't know this company, I don't know anything about it. Let's just say, for instance, they want to put in a rocket engine manufacturing plant next door to my house, okay? And then if it comes time for me to want to sell my place, I've got 3 1/3 acres with the 2 lots adjoining one another. When it comes time for me to sell, it'd be nice if I could sell it to, say, a young couple that has a couple of young children, 6 years old, 4 years old, something like that. They'd want to buy a starter house to get out of an apartment. That'd be the type of people that I'd be wanting to sell to. But let's just say they're going to put this rocket plant in next door, and a young couple like that say, yeah, I kind of like the fact that he's got 3 acres. Little Johnny could build a tree house in one of those trees, and little Lisa, she could probably get her little pony. There's enough room there, she could probably put a little pony out there. So that'd be the type of people that you'd want, maybe to take over a place like that. But then they find out, oh, well, they got this rocket plant next door. husband and wife talk about it. So I don't know if I want my children right next to a rocket plant, building rocket engines with all that combustible fuel. I know that's an extreme example, but I'm just trying to make a point. Here I've held on this property all these years, and I don't know what's going to happen to this property, what they're going to put in there, but I just know it'll probably depreciate the value of my house, because my house sits about 25 yards from their property line. So it'd be pretty close neighbors. I don't know if they would build all the way to their property line, but who knows what they would do. And also, I don't know why they're wanting to get the zoning changed now. You would think that they would have wanted to get the zoning changed before they tore down the houses that were on these properties. There used to be houses there. I don't know, they've gone in there and torn the houses down to the ground, and now there's completely vacant land. And now they want to get the zoning changed. It seemed like they would want to do all that before they tore those houses down. Now it's either going to get changed the way they want it, or it'd have to stay residential and somebody had to build a house and put it on there. So it's obvious that whoever owns this property has only done it to turn a quick buck for themselves and make a profit. They're not interested into keeping the neighborhood the way it was, with having a little bit of acres and a little bit of housing, on there. And so anyhow, I just wanted to put in my 2 cents and say I'm opposed to this zoning change. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Mr. Kruger. Any questions from Mr. Kruger? Kyle, could we see a zoning map for this area, Sheila? So everything immediately to the, I guess that's the west of these lots is R1, R1B?
Yes, sir.
Kyle, can you go over the requirements for buffer yards and the setbacks and all that, just to refresh us?
Right, yeah. So there'd be a required buffer yard between anything developed on the M1 property. They'd have to provide the buffer yard, which would be, it could be a mixture of, or it could be any one of these options, which is a 10-foot wide planting area with a fence, visual screen, and then trees along with that, or a 30-foot wide, strip of vegetation and grass, or there's also a 50-foot wide option as well. So generally, what you might expect to see, there would be some type of buffer between the two properties if it were to be developed. That's also what would be required to the south of the neighbor's property there, where it's currently already zoned M1. So they'd also have to provide a similar buffer as that's currently zoned. So, and then if there's any noise, anything developed there would all still have to comply with the noise ordinance, which I can't quote exactly right now, but there are requirements to make sure that activity does have a good and safe volume for any residential or nearby residential properties.
But we don't know the use they're actually planning for it.
I don't believe so.
Is the applicant here, sir? Would you care to come speak?
Tim Pritchett, 1565 County Road 152, Tyler. The business directly across the street is Seal Type, and Joe Hargis was the original owner of the property. He owns a property across the street where Seal Type is located. And we had purchased this property to actually develop and have Seal Type move across the street, because they have two locations now, one on Reynolds Road and one there on Commerce, and they were going to combine and put everything there on that property. And then they would have enough room for all their parking and the building with offices. That was our plan. It still is our plan, but we put the for sale sign on because they were kind of slow to say anything, the management at Seal Type. And so once we put the for sale sign on, then they contacted us and want to move forward.
So the property is still for sale?
It is for sale.
It's on the market. And the potential buyer, what?
Seal type.
Seal
Well,
type.
they're owned by Hillman. Well, Joe Hargis owned Seal Type, he sold it to Hillman. Hillman was interested in the property to combine the two locations.
Kyle, that
And I don't
is,
know if that's 100% that what's going to happen or not, but
they're currently zoned M2, right?
Correct.
So would they have to have an M2 to move?
I'm not familiar with what they do there. But it sounds like if the applicants asked for M1, then they've done their due diligence to see that'll
That
work
it
for
would
them.
work?
Yes.
Have you checked that out, or does, if someone's checked that to determine whether?
I'm not sure on the differences. They used to do a lot more work there. But now they've got a paint line, a wet paint line to paint screws to match metal buildings, and then they've got a powder coat line to do the same thing to match. And that's basically their products. They don't do any kind of, they used to do chemical coating on screws to weatherproof them. They don't do that anymore. They used to make their own washers. They don't do that anymore. So it's basically they assemble a screw and a washer, they make it match the color of a metal building.
All right, any other questions for this gentleman? Thank you, sir, for your time and presence. Are there others who wish to speak on this item?
I have another question for Kyle. The M1 zoning versus commercial zoning, where we're backing up to residential, does this fit in that pattern where we should be having more of a gradual change, or?
So can you go back to the future land use? Maybe next one. So here's the future land use map, which shows, what the comprehensive plan says for this area.
So
which
light
shows
industrial
light
instead of
industrial
neighborhood
warehouse.
commercial?
Right.
Okay.
So you have the heavier industrial to the north, the light industrial, and then commercial along the loop. Now, sure, the properties next door to the west are also shown as light industrial, which are not developed that way. They are homes right now. But yeah, there's not much of it doesn't show that much of a transition, from the industrial to the residential to the west. But the request is consistent with this plan here, and the code does have design elements in place, such as buffer yards and things like that will serve to mitigate the change in intensity between the homes to the west and this activity.
Okay.
I suppose I have some concerns about, there are some safeguards built into the code, but we've heard testimony here, we don't know what's going to be there.
I have a question for Kyle. Could we go back to the current zoning? Just to the east of the two subject lots, is that another section of R1B?
The yellow.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
And in the aerial, it looked like there was a house there, maybe multiple houses.
Yeah.
It's hard to tell from the aerial, but it looks like there's at least one.
Isn't that the house that the gentleman spoke of?
No.
No, this is the other side. This is the other side.
Yeah, it does look like there's a lot of cars parked back there. I'm not sure if that's a house or not.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just the residential.
Cool.
Well, just speaking for myself, I'd be more, I appreciate the safeguards that are built into the code. That's very nice. But we don't know, I guess I've been here too long. I've been here when we approved something, and we really didn't know what we were approving because we did not really know what the proposal was. We have a general notion from the gentleman's testimony, but it's not as precise as I would feel comfortable with, even with the safeguards. That's my opinion. Other commissioners may have a different view.
I had a similar view of that. I'm concerned that we don't know what's going in there. And I'm also concerned about isolating that R1B on the east side if there is somebody living in that.
And we're not for certain that they know whether they need M1 or M2. So we need more answers, I think, than more clarification.
Other commissioners like to weigh in on this?
I'm going to move that we deny item Z24-029.
Mr. Humber makes a motion to deny.
I'll second.
Motion to deny has been seconded. Any further discussion? If not, Caleb, would you call the roll? Please?
Sure. Carleen Darkbays,
Aye.
Clint Childs,
Deny.
Philip Humber,
Aye.
Christina Davis,
Aye.
Michael Carmichael,
Aye.
Roy Martinez,
Aye.
David Hudson.
Aye. The motion to change the zoning at this time is denied. I hope that people understand the dialogue and the conversations we've had. Thanks to everybody for being here. The next item is Z24032, Victor, and I'm going to...
Don't bother, make this fine.
All right. Well, there are a lot of consonants in your name, and I'm sorry, it's my fault that I'm not more articulate. Sheila.
This is a zone change from AR adaptive reuse to C2, which is General Commercial District. The applicant is requesting the zone change to sell all-terrain vehicles on the property. The adjacent properties to the north are Zone C2, General Commercial District, and is developed with commercial businesses with outdoor displays. The adjacent properties to the east, south, and west are zoned R1A, Single Family Residential District, and are developed with single-family homes. The future land use guide identifies this property as neighborhood commercial and is inconsistent with zoning requests. Approval of this request would amend the future land use guide. The applicant is requesting the zoning change to permit the sale of ATVs. The subject property was rezoned to AR, Adaptive Reuse District, in 2011, which does not permit motorcycle dealerships. The zoning landscape has remained unchanged since the 2011 decision, and most of the commercial use in the middle of the residentially zoned properties. This request would introduce a commercial use in the middle of residential zone properties, which is not consistent with the future land use guide to general commercial. Of the 10 notices mailed, none were returned in favor or in opposition to the request. All other departments have reviewed the application and anticipate a negative impact on services or facilities by the proposed rezoning request. Staff has performed a technical review of the request and finds that it is not consistent with the approval criteria. Staff recommends denial of the zoning change.
Thank you, Sheila. Sheila, any questions for Sheila?
It looks like a building goes through the middle of the property line. Is that, I'm not, wasn't quite sure about that.
It's attached to the other structure.
Okay, so it's just that part of it would be the commercial part?
Yes.
The applicant is here. Do you mind if I call you Victor? Would you come forward and state your name and address for the record?
Okay, I'm going to say it for you. Victor Roshiansky, 14644 Harbor Way in Flint. First, I'd just like to show you something. These are the type of ATVs that we're going to sell. These are considered toys from the franchisee here. And I told him when I'm going through it, I have to change the zoning. He says you shouldn't have to do that, but we're going to try and do it anyway. Because I need the dealer's license from the DMV, which is for cars, but I'm not going to be selling cars. These are for little kids.
Can you speak in the mic, please?
I'm sorry. These are for little kids and things like that. So we're not selling cars, we're not selling trucks, although right across the street from me is Hall Truck Sales, and just a little bit to the left of that is the Caterpillar dealership that's there. So I wrote a whole big thing, but I kind of like what that man said about rocket engines. I'm not selling rocket engines, nor do I plan on building rocket engines there. So basically, can we bring up the other one that shows this layout on it? Yeah, that one, thank you. Now, yeah, and you're right, sir, the lines that they have there are off. It should be more square on that property there. Now, they didn't know originally, but I own the property next door, which is a residential house, which is vacant. I bought it. It was in disrepair from an old lady that lived there about 10 years ago, and I haven't done anything with that. My future plans with that is to get maybe a C1 and maybe get a little office in there. And why I'm saying that that would be the future use there for that area is because I feel that it does comply with what's in the area, because all of 31 is commercial mostly. Now, over here, they have that one next door for R1A across the street. I'm pretty sure the fair bought that. That whole land back there is the new Texas State, Tyler State Fairgrounds that they're going to develop into all of that, even though they didn't touch that area yet. But so what we have right there, they show 1, 2, 3, mine, 4, 5, 6 or 7 lots there. There's 3 houses there. Okay, on my lot, there's one. On the lot next door that I own, there's one. The R1A that's labeled there's no house on there. There is a house on the corner of Patton Lane and 31, but it faces Patton Lane, which is like any other commercial and residential mixed-use district. When you're driving down the main road, there's businesses, and when you make that left or right turn on any road, the business is going to end, and then there's houses, like I heard somebody said about a transition point there. And I like to just point out that directly behind my property, that R1A that's there, that big piece of property, there's nothing on it. It's completely vacant. There's a donkey that I feed on there that one of the neighbors own and never feeds. There's nothing back there on that property. And then, so this house that's on the corner, if we can go back to the other picture. The one before, yeah. The house that's on the corner of Patton Lane and Highway 31 here, I know the owners there that owns both those properties there, and that house is set for demolition because Patton Lane is going to be widened, because you see that little jog that goes across the street? Now the new fairgrounds are there, so they're going to straighten out Patton Lane and they're going to demolish that house to do it. So you can go straight across and have a traffic light there. That's been in the works for the past 20 years, ever since I moved here 18 years ago. I knew about that. And now they also say that over there on Bellwood Lane is going to be increased in width also, because that's the way you're going to get to that new development that's by Sam's Club. They're building the Brookshire's Fresh over there, and that whole area back there is going to be commercial, industrial, car washes, whatever you may have back there on the abandoned Bellwood Golf Course. So that entrance is going to go down through that. And I see in the future Bellwood Lake Road, on both sides being all commercial, which there is a apartment building on Bellwood Lake Road that they built, and that has to be commercial, I think. And Patton Lane is also going to be commercial because you're going to go around and come right back out on the loop through all of that commercial business. And I'm absolutely sure that in that area there, at least in 2011 when I got my first change of zoning, that was what was on the books then for this area. And I don't see how you want to keep 3 houses, residential houses. And the house that's next door to me is a TV repair shop. It's been there forever. But the guy that owns that property, he's like, I'm going to say a slumlord, but let's just say he's a landlord. He owns 50, 60, 70 houses, and he just uses it for income. So I'm absolutely sure that he got the notice for this becoming commercial, that he's on board with that too. And then that other piece of land is vacant. There's no house on it. So in that picture there, we only have 3 houses, and I own 2 of them. And also from Highway 31, when you leave the dollar store, which is the last commercial business on my side, I think it's 400 feet. And the only turn in off 31 is my 2 properties and the neighbor that's renting the house out to the TV repair guy. And that's why I feel that I fall in where this all on 31 has to be commercial, because they were saying something about noise with the ATVs. I cannot hear myself think when I'm out in front of that house because of the traffic. If you were there and I was here, I would have to yell to you and you would still have a problem hearing me when the traffic is going by. Because it is 55, but they do 70. And basically, that's about it. I think I covered everything. I said no jet engines. And what else do we have here? Oh, Hall. Yeah, Hall is right across the street, and the Caterpillar dealership. It's within 500-600 feet of my place. And there's other car dealers on the road. Even though I'm not going to be a car dealer, I have no ambition for that. I may look a little young, but I am 60 years old this year, and this is my retirement exit plan. And if this doesn't happen, I don't know what we're going to do. And I only need this to get the franchise thing so I could buy from them. That's really the... Does anybody have any questions?
Any questions for this gentleman? Thank you for your time and presence.
Okay, thank you,
Are
sir.
there others who would like to speak on this item?
I have another question for Kyle. C1 versus C2. This is, future plan was neighborhood commercial, so that would be C1, correct?
Right.
And the difference between C1 and C2 is outside storage. Is that correct?
Outside storage and display, but also
And display, yeah.
more intense uses that would be allowed. And automotive, motorcycle, recreational vehicle sales are limited to C2.
Can I speak again?
Yes.
Yeah, so with the C2 thing, this is what my franchisee is saying, that the other people that have franchises with him all over Texas do not have to have a C2, because these are considered toys, and there is no outside storage of anything like this on the property. And there is not a big inventory neither. What happens is people will come in, I'll maybe have a few items for display, and they'll order it from the chart or from display, and then they come to me, or I go to Dallas and pick them up, and then either I can deliver them to the people, which I do a lot, or they would come in there, and the people can come and pick it up.
So you don't have any outside storage?
There is no outside storage there of this item. If it was cars, I would say yes, there has to be, but we're not cars.
Could this be zone C2 without having to go back through and redo everything, or would we have to deny this? And I mean,
zone C2?
Yeah, would you go along with the C1?
I can't, as long as C1, as long as it says there that I can sell ATVs, because the DMV wants to know that I can sell ATVs there. This is the whole problem.
I have a question then.
Yes,
Will you
ma'am.
clarify, you keep stating that they are toys.
Yes.
What's the size? What's the size differential between what you're going to be carrying
Yes.
versus a traditional ATV that we all probably have in our heads?
Like an ATV that you can ride, you can't ride these. These are for kids. These are all sized for kids, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years old, something like that. Little go-karts they make for them too. If you've been to Tractor Supply and you see what they have on display, not those big ones, like the little go-kart for the kids and the mini bike, that's the type of stuff that they carry for it. And, it's something I did since I was a kid too, but then I grew up and got a real job, and now I'm transferring back into it in my old age. And, I really have no neighbors. Everybody's saying about problems with neighbors. I understand where the man is right there. I have no neighbors. I'm my own neighbor, and the other house is going to be taken down. And I'm pretty sure in the future those people are going to come forward and ask for different zonings also to use the land in a way where you can't live on the highway. I'm telling you, you can't live there. It's just... And this is why on 31, we're really the only houses there. There's only 3 houses there on 31. If you go outside the city limits, there's none. So where the city limit sign is there, we're the only 3 houses on there, and I own 2 of them. And I think the main reason why Sheila here said rejection was what she told me in her office, was that they don't do individual plot changes. But over here, the C2 that is to the left of my property and north over there, that goes down Eisenhower, that was not C2. That was changed individually because the man wanted to put like a restaurant there or something at that time. And then he just put it up for sale, and it's been like that ever. But I know he got his C2 a long time ago. We're talking maybe 15 years ago. Just with that, he got that C2 just as an individual. See, I guess it was residential before because that's Normandy Heights, and that's all residential in there. But I think we were applying for a C2, correct, Sheila? Yes. Okay. Yeah.
I have a question for staff. Could y'all repeat your recommendation for denial again? Could you read that to us again?
Staff has performed a technical review of the request and finds that it is not consistent with the approval criteria, and staff recommends denial of the zone change.
One of my, I'm sorry, Clint, did you?
No, it's, you go.
One of my concerns is there's a lot of vacant property out there, but that, again, it's similar to the last issue. It's all R1A. We don't know what's going to happen, but this is but with the fair and other events happening out there, this part of the city's going to change. It's already R1A. That's the future land use.
No, future land use was C1.
Well, yeah, but it's R1A now.
Yeah.
And so I would just be concerned about. And the Gentleman's Right, I go by there today. I didn't turn in because there was too much traffic, but it's one of the. It's almost spot zoning. It's the way I see it, but others may have a different opinion.
I agree. C2 would be spot zoning, but not C1.
Can I interject with what you just said, my friend?
Yes, sir.
Over here now, wish it could be up on screen. Can I approach?
I'd rather you.
Okay. Over here is the property in question, and then this is a place I own next door. Do you see how low it is on the property? And from there in, it gets deeper. This is why my properties are the only ones with driveways off 31s, because you cannot access the properties that are the one right on Patton Lane has to be accessed by Patton Lane, and that other property there is adjoined with that property. I don't know why it's cut in half. It's the same owner. But you cannot access that property from 31. It's a big drop off, and then behind that is a stream that feeds Lake Bellwood from when it rains out, storm water cuts through there. I have a picture of it if you would like to see that.
Victor, I think the obligation of the commission is to view these properties. I'm sure all of us
Yes, sir.
have seen it, so thanks for
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
your time and presence.
Thank you. I hope I was entertaining.
All right, Commissioners, you've heard the staff's recommendation, you've heard the applicant's comments. Is there someone who'd like to venture a motion?
I've still got a question as to whether or not we have to approve or disapprove the C2, or could it be a C1 that we approve today versus that?
You have the ability to approve a C1, because that's more intent, or more restricted than what they asked for, or what was notified. I can't say right now if that's going to be helpful to them in terms of what activity they want to do versus what the zoning requires. My understanding is the DMV needs the approval, which indicates that they may be
Could we
vehicles.
maybe table this for a month and let him determine whether the C1 would work? Because I'm not for C2 anyway, so.
C1 would work as long as there was just something there that said that I could sell ATVs. C1 would work, because that's what the DMV is waiting for.
I'm not sure that would work then.
Mike, was that a motion? Or not?
No, not. Does anybody else have a motion?
I guess my concern, I know where this is, I drive by it regularly, and there's not really a lot there.
Yeah.
And I hear what staff is saying about future land use guide, and I don't want to do spot zoning either, but at the same time, I just can't see how it benefits anyone to have this land that's not being used, and I can't imagine anyone buying this property with the intent of putting a house on it. How in the world do you get in and out?
Right.
Well, in future use, it's commercial, so.
Exactly.
Just light commercial.
And I guess it sounds to me like the gentleman C2 won't work. He won't be able to get his dealer license with a C1. He needs a C2, although maybe C1 would work. So I'm not necessarily opposed to tabling it and seeing if C1 might work. I'm kind of on the fence.
I would second that.
Yeah, I would as well.
Christine, is that, don't.
Yes, Mr.
Yeah,
Chairman, I would like to.
If it's a motion.
I would like to make a motion to table item Z24-032.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to table this for 30 days. Is that your motion, Christine?
Yes.
May I ask, so if that's to come back with a different zoning, that's.
Yes.
But,
Either a different
but it's
zone.
tabling the request for C2.
Tabling the request for C2 to allow the applicant time to look into whether or not a C1 would work for his purposes, and then perhaps change his request.
So everybody understand the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Opposed?
I don't know how many votes that was.
That was an aye for me.
One aye. So is that all, everybody?
No.
Except for Philip, okay. So by a vote of 6-1, we're tabling this item for 30 days for a potentially different zoning request. Next is C24-007, Marceline Perez.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. This request is to close a portion of an improved right-of-way. It is located adjacent to Shaw Street. The applicant is requesting the closure of an unimproved portion of Duckfield Avenue. The applicant is requesting the closure to replat the right-of-way into their adjacent property. The right-of-way is currently not developed with a street, and the applicant is the owner of the property adjacent to the east. Out of the 12 notices that got sent out, no notices were returned in favor or in opposition to the request. Staff recommends approval of the closure of the right-of-way, subject to right-of-way being replatted within 6 months.
Thank you. Thank you. Any questions for city staff? If not, are the persons here who wish to speak on this item?
Only if there's questions.
Please come to the microphone.
Hi, my name is Marlene, and I am Marceline's daughter. I live on 3111 West Shaw, which is next door to her lots. So the reason that we're asking for this is because there's a lot of littering, there's a lot of dumping, there's a lot of shortcuts being taken through all night long. Right now, our lots are only used for my son to play in, so I'm really not able to do much because I'm having to clean out, worry about people doing U-turns, taking shortcuts. So that's the only reason why we're asking for that.
You understand this? If that's granted, you'll have to replat within 6 months.
What is? Yes.
That's what y'all understand.
Yes.
Are there other, I'm sorry I interrupted somebody. Any other questions on this item? All right. Is someone like, staff recommendation is to, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, come to the microphone, please. I thought there was somebody else.
My name is Ray Boudreau. I work for the Brandon Corporation at 1321 South Broadway. I represent the client CCL Carton. They're the property owner to the west of Duncanfield. CCL Carton is an international company that manufactures pharmaceutical packaging and other pharmaceutical supplies. In February of 23, we had a pre-development meeting with the City of Tyler Planning and Zoning to show them our future plans for a warehouse on the property to the west. We've been working on the plans. In April of this year, 24, y'all approved a plat for this warehouse. We're planning to build a phase 1, 60,000 square foot warehouse, and then phase 2, another 97,000 square foot warehouse. The closure of Duncanfield actually affects our construction plans for this particular project. We need the right-of-way for Duncanfield to control the drainage on this particular piece of property. It also ends up affecting our, what they call unlimited setbacks for the warehouse building. When you have property within a certain distance of warehouses, it limits the size of the warehouse you can build. Right now, with Duncanfield in place, we can maximize the building area of our property for warehouse development, and that's what we have planned to do. And so since it interferes with our proposed plans, and also due to the fact that my client is not party to the road closure petition, which is usually required on any road closure, that properties on both sides of the affected right-of-way have to sign the petition, I recommend that this project, this road closure be denied.
Thank you, Ray, for your presence. I apologize for.
That's okay.
I mean, so there are two. So as I understand it, there are two issues here. One is participation in the petition, and the other is spacing because of this property.
And there's also a third one, is that we need the right-of-way to control the drainage.
Okay. Third one.
Yeah.
All right. Any questions from Mr. Boudreau?
If you had half of that, your portion, would you be able to do your drainage in that portion?
No. We need the whole 50-foot right-of-way to solve the drainage problem. And we need the whole 50-foot right-of-way to meet the unlimited building setback.
Thank you. Any questions from Mr. Boudreau? Any other questions?
And the plans are 100% complete. They just have not been submitted to the city due to the political and economic climate we're going through right now. we're hoping that everything stabilizes after the election.
Yes, ma'am. If you'd like to speak, please come to the microphone, state your name and address for the record.
Marceline Perez, 715 South Vine Avenue. I would not oppose if they would need the right of way for their plumbing or whatever they need to do. I would not oppose to it. Right now, I have paid over $20,000 to have all that cleaned up in order to avoid all the littering, all the dumping. I mean, I've already spent money in it. And I would not be opposed of them using the property for whatever means they have to. I have no plans to build or do anything with that property, but keep it clean.
Okay. Any questions for this lady? Thank you for your time and presence, Mr. Boudreau. I'm assuming you want to comment on your obligations to maintain the property if you go through with your project.
Yes, once we get through, we'll meet the UDC landscaping requirement. We'll meet the requirements that Development Services puts on us to control the drainage on the property. And then obviously we'll be maintaining, that property will then be a commercial or industrial warehouse building with its own maintenance crews that will maintain the grass and the trees and everything else that we have to do to meet the landscaping requirements.
Thank you again, Ray. Any questions from Mr. Boudreau? Sometimes you have surprises.
Yeah. And what was the city's recommendation?
So, Kyle, do you have any comments on this?
I mean, that's all new information. And we did not receive any opposition, so we didn't know that.
It's all new information, but the planning department's worked on this project before. The proposed business that's going to be there, and this right of way was not something that y'all discussed or were concerned about.
Well, there was discussion that it was not needed to be built. I don't recall the discussion about using the public right of way for the drainage or any of that. I mean, that could still be utilized if all of that right of way became, part of their property. That would solve the concern about pass through and dumping and things like that. But that would require that the both parties negotiate or agree on who gets their half and or all of it. This question is just whether it can be opened up for that possibility that is closed permanently. But if that's all private property by the business, then that seems like that may help them as well.
Our commissioners, we've had what the diplomats call a full and frank discussion of this item. Is there a commissioner care to make a motion?
I'm still a little confused. If we vote to close this, are we basically giving the property to one person or the other, or is it then up to negotiation as far as who got what?
If you closed it today, then each party would be eligible for their half. If the discussion, so that's and that could be, I guess, negotiated after that, but it doesn't have to be, and so that's maybe a risk there. Honestly, if they don't agree on if it's just half and half, then that's what you would have. If that discussion happens before and that's clear by all parties before it's closed, maybe that's more ideal.
So maybe we should table this one as well.
Well, if we deny the request, then this is still a public right-of-way that the city could deal with the business venture.
It sounds like it would be public right-of-way for drainage for the business, sure. But it wouldn't be closed for...
But then how do we address the safety concerns
Yeah.
that the residential has?
I'll have a question on that then. If it is denied, is there a way to, since it's not a formally used right-of-way, could there be some type of blockade to prevent the safety issues in the dumping? That would be a city question.
I'm not sure how we've handled that in the past, if dedicated right-of-way has been blocked. So I can't answer that, but that's not how it is right now. And it sounds like people have been using it as a right-of-way for I guess driving on the dirt. But it was dedicated and intended to be a street. There are utilities under the right-of-way that would need easements if it was closed.
Then am I confirming that both parties would have to be in agreement to close the right-of-way since they are both adjacent to it?
The ordinance doesn't require that. It does require that a party that is adjacent to it does make the change or request, that somebody somewhere else can't make that change request.
Well, Mr. Boudreaux's client didn't participate in the petition request, so that we're not on a basis to approve this if the parties are not all equally involved. Am I right, Kyle?
What I was saying was the code doesn't require that all adjacent parties sign off on the application. It only requires that for a street name change, that all parties have to sign off on it. But the way the process is that we do notify essentially the neighboring properties because they are encompassed in the 200 feet. So we have achieved that, where the neighboring property has indicated that they have plans for that property that this would be in conflict with, as the facts are today. And so I think that's testimony that the board or commission can use to make a decision.
It's testimony that they had actual knowledge, but it's not testimony that they agreed to participate.
Sure.
I think this can come back again next month or whenever somebody wants to if we deny it. Correct? There's no time limit before this can come back to us again, or is there?
I'm not sure. I know that applies for zone changes.
Right.
Would it make more sense to table and allow the two parties to negotiate, because potentially the commercial might want to be the ones to apply for that right away?
That's really not.
No?
That's really not our responsibility, and I'm going to have trouble not denying this request because of the complications, which are outside of our purview at this point.
All right, I'll make a motion to deny.
Is there?
I'll second.
Second. Motion's been made and seconded to deny this right-of-way closure. Any further discussion? All right, Caleb, would you call the roll?
Carlene Darkbays.
Aye.
Clint Childs.
Deny.
Philip Humber.
Aye.
Christina Davis.
Nay.
Michael Carmichael.
Aye.
Roy Martinez.
Aye.
David Hudson.
Aye. Good luck to everybody with your project. The closure request is denied. Next is Z24-031, Luis Munoz. Yes, sir.
Okay, so this zone case is to change the zone from M1 Light Industrial District to R1D, which is our single-family attached detached. It is located south of the southeast intersection of East Oakwood Street and Anderson Avenue. The applicant is requesting the zone change to bring the property into conformance with the Unified Development Code. The adjacent properties to the north, south, and west are zoned M1, which is Light Industrial District, and are developed with a mixture of single-family homes and industrial uses. The adjacent properties to the east is zoned R2, two-family duplex, and is developed with two single-family homes. The future land use would be amended from single-family medium low density to single-family and single-family attached. The applicant is requesting the zone change to bring the property back into conformance with the Unified Development Code. The property currently consists of a single-family home on a small lot. Out of the 18 notices that were mailed out, no notices were returned in favor or in opposition to the request. Staff has performed a technical review of the request and finds that it is generally consistent with the approval criteria, and staff recommends approval of the zone change.
All right, any questions for city staff? I don't have anybody signed up to speak. Is there a person here who'd like to speak on this item? Sir, the applicant? No?
Trying to work.
Any questions for city staff? All right, is there a commissioner who'd like to make a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'll move to approve item Z24-031.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve this item. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We're adjourned.